These alleged plans for the future of Xbox have been leaked and talked about over this past week. And today we wanted to gather Game Sandwich's finest and sit down and discuss if what Xbox has cooking is the right move or not. Now, why are we doing this? Well, that's because this is a hot topic. What's up, guys? This is K-LO, and normally I'm here to give you the lowdown on all things gaming, but welcome back to a brand new episode of Hot Topic. Of course, I'm joined by the one and only Jesse. Say what's up.
Hey guys, me again. I'm sure you're sick of me on Hot Topic, but you're gonna have to deal with me one more week at least, so let's get into it.
I think they're sick of me. I've been here through and through, and I think today's episode, we're gonna switch things up. Pun intended, potentially, maybe. Depends how you view this topic. But there is a lot of news in the world of Xbox. We're talking about a next-gen handheld. We're talking about Steam or Epic Games coming to the console. Things you never thought you'd really see in the gaming world. It might be coming true. And again, before we get into any of these stories, this is all alleged. Grain of salt with some of these things, because even me... I'm a little hesitant with some of this.
You let in saying there's a lot of news, and I was going to jump in on you and say there's a lot of rumors.
Yeah, it's such a fine line we gotta walk, just because with me as a fan, you sit here and you see all this stuff, and you're like, okay, like, my hype meter, it goes either which way every single day, every time a new headline comes out. But I wanted to start with this Xbox handheld. This is the one that has occupied space in my mind for this whole week. Of course, we did a Game Bite on this, so you might want to go check that out. Shameless plug there. But rumors started when Sarah Bond talked about the largest technical leap forward. We're talking next gen. Phil Spencer said the next console will be, quote unquote, and I have it written down, unique and powerful. He also talked about the idea of this product existing and how making a device would be pretty much to reach more players and offer up different ways to play games and how to get games. So I want to ask you, in the broad sense, an Xbox handheld existing, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's something more and more looking likely, but my little conspiracy, well, I don't even know if it's conspiracy because everything's up in the air right now, but I think right now at least the Xbox handheld and that next generation most powerful hardware thing are either two different things or like a sort of switch situation where it's a combination of those things. I don't think they're going to be just a handheld in the future that is also going to be more powerful than the Series X. That just doesn't seem very feasible based on technology and cramming something like that into a handheld. So that's kind of my idea, and I think with how Xbox is moving in more of the direction of we want everyone to play everywhere with anything, they've been branching into that a little bit with their partners. It's like they're basically just putting Game Pass onto all the existing handhelds out there. And I don't know if you have the quote there, but Phil Spencer was talking. He's like, I use these handhelds, and they just not quite Xbox enough for me, basically, and kind of paraphrasing.
He mentioned something about, like, I want these devices to feel like I boot the Xbox dashboard on my TV, or something along those lines. And I feel like my notes were somehow broadcasted to you, because that was one of the things I was gonna say here. We talked about last week about mid-generation refreshes and things like that. And
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago by now. I like this idea of an Xbox handheld existing. Again, you brought up the point. This is going to be, or at least I would assume this is a smaller device. This isn't going to be one big brick of a console. Shout out to the Wii U. But fitting this technology that they're touting as the largest technical leap forward into such a small form factor, it makes me think. I look at my Series X, and on paper, I don't know if this is true, I'm just going to say it, one of the most powerful consoles on the market to date. And getting all of that into a Switch-like device, I don't know. It just seems, I don't want to say impossible, because technology is always changing and all this fun stuff. I'm just going to be very interested to see how they make it fit. Again, battery life is a thing that I worry about with all of these handhelds. The Switch, I know the Steam Deck has its problems with battery life and how you play games, the resolutions and all that. But the one thing it has going for it, or at least allegedly, Jez Corden, while on the Xbox 2 podcast, said this is a device that plays games natively. We talked about the PS Portal a while back, how that was a missed opportunity here. And I guess now I'm going to pose this question to you. If this Xbox handheld comes out, if we're in this world, the Switch 2 comes out, that's going to be, who even knows what that's going to be. Does this force PlayStation's hand here when talking about they're going to be the odd console maker out, at least from what we know right now? They're not going to have a handheld. Is this the time this forces them to make the PSP?
I don't think so, at least initially. I think the Switch really should have been, if they were going to be pushed to do that, what would have done it, because I don't think PlayStation's really afraid of Xbox in hardware in any sense. And like, if they see them do this, I don't think they're going to be like, oh my God, we're going to lose out on this market. I think they think Switch has that 99% of that market. And handhelds are really, they're big everywhere, but they're big in like Japan. And that's where I think Sony would probably be looking to mostly market a handheld if they were going to make one. And that's Switch territory. Xbox, what have they sold, like 100,000 consoles total there?
Yeah. So
I don't think they would jump like reactionary at this, but it might push them a little bit to being more proactive in somehow getting their games onto existing handhelds with some sort of like native PlayStation app type of deal.
So I guess with that being said, one of the biggest things as a consumer, price point. What are we thinking for a price point for such a device? Because that is a make or break thing for a lot of people out there.
Yeah, if we're talking the Xbox one, I mean, what is the Series X right now? 400? 500?
I want to say 4 to 5. I'm going to give myself some breathing room there.
Okay, so if that's, I'm gonna go with my little theory here that this next handheld is not going to be like their official next gen, so to say. So if it's something like a new handheld sort of Series S type power device, they would be pushing it at 400, I would think. I would say 3 to 350 would be like a sweet spot. But
sign me up for that. I'll go to GameStop even and reserve mine right then and there at that price point.
I don't know if they could make something for that. I mean, hardware is always sold at a loss, but I don't know if that's too big of a loss. But
that would be them being too gracious to us as the consumer. Now, this is where, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, the next few titles, like Fable, like the next Fallout, Elder Scrolls 6, and let's not forget GTA 6, which will live on for another 15 to 20 years. We all know it. Let's just accept that fact. Those games need to run like butter on the next-gen console. And something about them pinning themselves into this corner for a handheld, it just, the way I see it, they're going to launch this handheld and say, like, hey, this is our next gen console. There's no higher end model, there's no Series S, like at home console, strict, no handheld. It's going to remind me of the Xbox One generation here, where it's like, this device, if it's just going to be a handheld, it needs to run those games as smooth as butter. And this is just giving me flashbacks. They could fail here, and in terrible fashion, if this device doesn't deliver in the performance aspect of it all. We've seen the Switch. Yes, it was good at the start, but it had its limitations. Steam Deck right now, it's going. It's a good device, but obviously there's room for improvement. But if Xbox just hinges all their bets on this one device, this could be catastrophic for Xbox if it fails. I hope it doesn't, but putting that idea out there, I'm just thinking back to that Xbox One generation, which will set them back so much.
Yeah, and Phil's admitted it much. Like, that was the generation not to lose. And, but yeah, that's partially why I also think this handheld can't be their only next gen solution. If it were, then the only two possible solutions I could see for it somehow keeping up is one that, and this kind of goes against what I guess Jez Corden reported, or at least would go in line with it, is like it can do some games natively, but other games maybe it has to use xCloud. You know, the only other option, and I'm only saying it's an option because it's technical things beyond me, but some of the things that they're predicting with the next Switch that could be applied to this handheld is all this new like DLSS sort of technology, where if they can, I don't know how they would do it, if they would have it in the console or have developers have to do it, but like have like a GTA 6, but say, okay, we have the version that runs like technically at like 480p, but DLSS boosts it up, and then because it's not using all that tech hardware, CPU, GPUs, I don't know, to worry about the graphics, it can focus all that on the frame rate. I don't know if that's a thing, how that works. It's probably not. But if they can, you know, loosen up some of that tech being caught up in the graphics and let DLSS do that, maybe they can get away with, you know, punching above its weight for a handheld. But yeah, I hope that's they don't go full handheld, is because that, yeah, they're kind of out at that point if they do.
I really like that idea of this console existing and then offering up the Series X, and I'm just using this as a benchmark, like high-end, like true enthusiast console, this portable in the middle, and then a Series S, make it all digital, do whatever you want on that end, and just make it a cheaper price point. I think that's the best move for them. Just, they can cast a wide net, appeal to a lot of people, and I guess that kind of leads us into this next bit, this next rumor making the rounds. Talk about appealing to a lot of people. This rumor started when Phil Spencer sat down with Polygon. He was talking about Game Pass. He was talking about all this fun stuff going on at Xbox. And then he talked about bringing, potentially, the Epic Game Store to the Xbox console. And that's when everything just started to follow suit. This opened the door to Steam coming to the Xbox console. Now, in general, what are your thoughts on storefronts like that coming to the Xbox console, not just PC, because they're already there?
I think that is a very bad move for Xbox, a great move for players. And I know Xbox is kind of in that zone right now where they're trying to do everything they can for the players to lure them on over, you know, with Game Pass and, you know, all those subscriptions. And like for a long time, like for $1, you get it for 5 years or whatever. And like it's a little bit reminding me on a kind of bit of a tangent. I don't know. I think you would probably be too young to remember when the Dreamcast was failing. They would give you a Dreamcast if you signed up for SegaNet. Like straight
What?
up give you a yeah. They were so desperate to get people Dreamcast.
Wow. Shout out to K-Lo lore here. My first game was Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast, so I should have gotten a free one, but I was too busy being a little child to figure any of this out. But wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I mean, unless I was bamboozled at one point, someone will fact check me, but I never had a Dreamcast. Epic and Steam on Xbox because they've all but thrown in the towel on winning the hardware race and kind of pivoted to their Game Pass and basically their storefront, putting that everywhere. So they're really kind of inviting in their biggest competition to take up their sales and their space on their platform, which is like the only place they kind of have left that they own. So I feel like that's kind of more doing more harm than good for themselves, personally. Where do you see this?
So, since you're always ahead of the curve, and somehow what I have written down, you just say, we never share notes on this. I want to pose this, and then I'll get into an answer about that. All right. We all know PlayStation is moving into the Steam marketplace offering up games, and I'm sure just saying that you kind of know where this is going. In a way, very roundabout, very, read between the fine lines. If this deal goes down, if Steam comes to Xbox, that also means PlayStation games, first-party ones, are going to come with that. Now, that doesn't mean PlayStation could see that and be like, yeah, no, we're not launching our games on Steam. I don't know how that works legally and if they signed a contract. And they could very well opt to make their own launcher on PC and say, hey, we don't need Epic, we don't need Steam. But yeah, I just like the prospect of putting it out there into the world that PlayStation first-party games could be on Xbox through Steam, and it's just because you see a lot of flack of Xbox getting this over the past few months over Sea of Thieves, Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment. It's just funny to see this all kind of play out. And it's like, oh, here we are a month later, and now we're talking about allegedly this all happening.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I saw I don't know, can't recall where online when this was all kind of swirling about, someone bringing up that kind of point, and someone kind of had a rebuttal, and again, I don't know how it works, but the kind of point was that's not necessarily true because they kind of put it as like a Steam Deck situation where the developers kind of have to put in a little bit of work to make it compatible with a different hardware besides the PC. So if Sony didn't want their first-party games to work on an Xbox, I think they could just be like, well, we're not going to make it compatible. But I meant to look it up before because I was sure this point would come up. Steam does, at least to the Steam Deck, have streaming, right?
Yeah.
If they had Steam and you could Steam stream to your Xbox, I don't know why you would want to do that, but if they did that, then yeah, you got Steam on your Xbox. But at that point, you might as well just, plug in an Xbox controller into your PC. So I don't know.
I also don't know if they're pushing this product anymore, but the Steam console, I forgot what it's called.
Oh,
I don't know. It's like Steam. What was it?
Was it the Steam box?
Honestly, it might be, but I know there's a specific name, and I was like, oh, that's crazy. Steam had an actual, it was just a square that had Steam on it. But yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But to answer your question about Epic Games and Steam coming to the Xbox Marketplace and all this, I'm with Phil Spencer in offering up more ways to get games, more ways to play games, and I don't know. I live in a circle where I have friends who just have Xbox, and I have friends who play PC who play both. I'm one of the people who play both. Let's say we hop on a game like Phasmophobia. Of course, there were rumors that game is coming to console, and now that was delayed, blah, blah, blah. But let's just say Steam was available on Xbox. He could just go through that means and get Phasmophobia, and we could play all together. I think there's a lot of money to be made there as well on both sides with Valve and Xbox. Of course, there might be a deal struck where it's like, hey, for every game sold on an Xbox console, a proportion of the sales goes to Xbox. I don't know how that all works. That is also another mountain you got to climb.
That was a point I was going to bring up too, and now seems like a good point as any, is that whole complication, because it goes beyond that, where, say, like, I think on, let's say Steam, if you're a developer, you split part of your sales with Steam for everyone you sell on their platform. If Steam is on Xbox, is Xbox taking a cut of Steam sales on Xbox, and then that cut from the developers is like, how is this, like, who's this making the most sense for anymore? Like,
it's hard to track the money and insert the mathematics floating around beam. It's a valid point. These are the things that could make or break deals. And yeah, Phil Spencer can go out here and talk to Polygon about this prospect, but yeah, that's all he can do at the end of the day, is just kind of talk about it as a fan. It's well documented. He's just a fan of gaming in general, and he kind of just said this would be fun, you know. But tying this into what we talked about earlier with this Xbox handheld, the broad picture for Xbox, at least from what they've painted or allegedly painted so far, they're blurring the lines between console gaming and PC gaming. I think Phil Spencer specifically said when you think about the Windows company, you think of PCs and stuff like that. So I think with them potentially dipping into the Epic Game Store and Steam and making a handheld that is portable, that could blend the libraries of gamers who have Steam, Epic Games, and Xbox. I think doing that, yes, you're appealing to a massive, massive wave of gamers across the world, but you're also opening the doors of people who are just one or the other. You know, we have just console gamers that will now have the full Steam library available to them. We have strictly PC gamers who might not have Game Pass, who might not have tried Halo or whatever Xbox console exclusive you want to pick. It's just, I don't know. This, out of both things proposed, is the best scenario, if that has any credence to it, as far as I honestly don't see a negative, or at least a big one. I should put it that way. I don't see a big negative here. I only see benefit to one, you get more people playing different games they've never really played. And two, you know, Phil Spencer has always been this guy that, yes, he bit the bullet on the Xbox One generation, but he kind of started to see where the industry was going. And I think he's one to omit, and he did, you know, there are things we could do now that could prep us for the long haul. He's always been about the longevity of Xbox. How long can this thing go? And I think offering up Steam, offering up Epic Games, you know what? Open the gates. Let them come in, and let's just see where this all goes.
Yeah, I mean, just to quickly go off your point that Phil just says things sometimes, like, it reminds me of when he's like, yeah, we'd love to put Game Pass on the Switch. He said that like 4 years ago, and, you know, he was just saying things that obviously didn't happen. But, you know, it's such a tough thing because I feel like there's a lot of comparisons Xbox has with Sega, where I feel like Xbox is just a little too ahead of the times sometimes, where it's, you know, arguably with the Xbox One, except for Kinect, um, you know, we're basically always online right now. We basically don't share games now in the traditional way. They just were too fast and too forceful with it. And so I think now they probably won't be like this. They obviously aren't going to be forceful unless they do go next gen only handheld. That'd be, which we both kind of agree on its own would be a bad decision. But I think with this move, you're right. It's the best for players, and in the long term, probably where I mean we're basically already there, just not everyone except for PlayStation, Xbox kind of already has kind of everything into it, like PC. All the handhelds can basically do everything. But it's kind of like if they do that and that's all they have, then I don't know if they're going to be able to make it over that time kind of time hump where that becomes the thing everybody's doing. Because, like you said, like they'll bring in everybody, but if I'm a big Steam guy and I'm like, okay, I don't, and for some reason I want that over the Steam Deck, then I go over there and I'm like, okay, and now I play my Steam games and I stay in my Steam ecosystem probably for the most part. Xbox isn't really getting any money from me, and like it's kind of going all back to that system where they're banking on Game Pass, but if you got all these different storefronts and people kind of stick with their one, even if they're on your platform, I mean, it all kind of comes back to that big question of how, if they're getting cuts and like of sales on other people's platforms on there and how that all works. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's the best thing and the future, but I think there needs to be like a step or two somehow in between that they're kind of trying to jump past.
I think to kind of like encapsulate this all, let's just like I'm gonna craft the perfect scenario.
Yeah.
One, they release a next gen handheld. Yeah, they can release the other two consoles, but a next gen handheld. It runs great, performance is up to snuff with the current generation of consoles. If you're gonna make a handheld, don't do one that runs off last gen tech. I just don't see like any reason to do that, especially with how long they plan these things. But yeah, next gen handheld runs like a dream, perfect for the times. It'll play GTA 6 at 60 FPS because they promised that this generation and didn't get that.
Wait, who?
Xbox did. I'm just saying that was the big thing going into this generation. Not 30 FPS like we've been getting for a bunch of these games, but 60 was kind of the promise of all this next gen teraflops and doodads.
Do you just mean in general or specifically GTA 6?
No, I'm just saying in general, like 60
Okay,
FPS
okay.
is like the standard most people want to go into games because Redfall had that problem. There's a whole bunch of problems. But let's just say powerful console, powerful handheld. Now you got Game Pass on the go. You could potentially, and I agree, there should be a cloud streaming option on this device only for the fact, like, I was playing my Xbox last night. I didn't want to download Madden that takes up 100 some odd gigs. I played it off cloud for a little bit and then I got off it. But yeah, it should offer cloud, it should offer Game Pass. Obviously, it's Xbox. And then, let's just throw on the bells and whistles here. Steam, Epic Games. I don't know. To me, at least, and I don't own a Steam Deck, I don't own an ROG Ally or whatever other one exists. That seems like the perfect console to me. It just does. Like, on paper, it just seems like everything you could want. And let's just say, like, one night I don't feel like sitting here and playing on my PC. I can hang out on my couch or on my bed, play my Steam library and Game Pass and all this stuff all in one. It just kind of sounds like the dream scenario.
So let me ask you this. Aside from, and maybe there is a way, I don't know. I don't have a Steam Deck. Steam Deck, obviously you have Steam. you have Game Pass. If there is, or I don't know if there is a way to have Epic on there. I probably guessing that there is, since you can basically put Windows on it. Uh, do we not already have this handheld?
Well, that was the pin in this all, because whenever I was doing the game bite about this, whenever I was prepping for today, I was like, all right, we're talking about like an Xbox branded handheld. At the end of the day, that's pretty much what we're talking about, because like you said, the Steam Deck, it does all this stuff. But I think like the selling factor, the nuance here, it's kind of like a console where you kind of just charge it up day one, you play it, and it works. I think that's the appeal. I think with the Steam Deck, you have to, like what you said, put Windows on it. All I know is if I ever try to do that, I'm going to brick the console, and I'll just be upset, and I'll have a $500 paperweight on my desk. But, you know, all that aside, yeah, like, that's the big pin in all of this, because, yeah, like, things are there today that can do all of what we're talking about. It's just a matter of now Xbox wants to make their own spin on this. And then, of course, we add in all the bells and whistles here of Steam, of Epic Games. I think that's the thing that gets people excited, because it's like, Xbox hasn't made a handheld. This is kind of crazy times. Like, they're prototyping. And that's also a big thing here. Whenever we talk about prototypes, especially within gaming, I remember doing a bit about the Switch a while back, and we were talking about the Switch 2 and designs. I looked at old Switch prototype concepts. There was one that looked like an oval. There was one that had this and that. The Switch 2 had the detachable screen. We don't know what it's going to be. But again, prototypes just, that doesn't mean the product's coming to market. It's more or less, hey, like, it's on our mind. We're just putting it out there.
Yeah, and prototypes and patents, they're just saying, just in case, we're looking at this, we might not do anything with it beyond this, but we want to just cover our bases. So yeah, prototypes and patents aren't always a clear indication of what's coming. But a question I do have for you, kind of as we get to the end of this a little bit, is that I will say, like, that selling factor of if Xbox can make it, like, it just works. You boot it up. Like, let's just say you come into your, like, little blocky square Xbox menu, and you got, like, your Game Pass tile and your Epic tile and your Steam tile, and you just go boop, boop, boop. But I can see potentially Epic being interested in this. But would Steam want to do this? Because that kind of saying them kind of going against their own handheld markets. Like, why would they want to offer another place to get handheld Steam when they are explicitly making their own? That'd be kind of like if Sony had, like, their own portable at the same time. Like, they wouldn't want, I mean, a lot of reasons they don't want their games on Xbox, but you kind of get where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, Steam would, I think the only deciding factor here, again, at the end of the day, it's money. And if they strike this deal, it would have to work in Steam's favor. Because like you said, essentially they'd be killing their own product, the Steam Deck. And it's like, okay, there will be Steam Deck people, there will be Xbox people. But yeah, that's also something I didn't even consider heading into this. It's like, yeah, Steam has their own thing that they do. I don't think they're going to want to do that unless they just say, hey, we'll offer up Steam on the console. We're not doing a handheld because we already have one, and we don't want to, but I know that deal, that's in a perfect world. I know I also said about the dream scenario. Again, we live in the world of gaming where things just never work out. It's just how life is in gaming. So that dream scenario of it just runs, it just does the thing, it ain't gonna happen. I'm sorry.
Here's where I teased you a little earlier today. Here's where I'm gonna drop that little bit of gaming history on you.
I thought it was the Dreamcast bit, honestly, but I'm excited for this.
Do you recall that Steam almost did come to console already?
When did they do this?
It never fully happened. I think it was an E3. It was some presentation I remember watching a long time ago during the PlayStation 3 days. I meant to look it to rewatch it, but I didn't have time. Uh, I think it was actually Gabe Newell who came out on the PlayStation stage, and they were saying, "We're bringing Steam to PlayStation 3 with Portal 2."
Wow.
And it did not happen. But that was a plan that was in the works at one point, and eventually, Portal 2 did come to consoles, but yeah, Steam almost did come to consoles at one point. So
I think if anything, this kind of proves our point here. Things could be said, and you can go on stage on E3 and even say it, and it might not happen. But at the end of the day, I would love an Xbox handheld. I would love to be able to have an all-in-one device and kind of live in the perfect world. But for now, this is all prototypes. This is all hearsay and more of a fantasy booking scenario. But if you have any final thoughts, we'll wrap it up here.
yeah, I mean, Xbox, I think they're in a bit of a tough spot. I think if they can do like our best scenario of high end, like I would even say, like if they did, let's just call it like the Series Y, which is the new Series X kind of console for next generation. And then instead of what we have now for an S, have this handheld as the lower end. Have those two options, but that they also work together with what like the Portal is, where you stream or xCloud on it when you're in Wi-Fi, and then you can download and play kind of at lower resolutions, which wouldn't really matter as much on a smaller screen on the go. And if they can first, get Epic on there, I think that would be a good first step. Steam, I mean, if they could, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, because I'm still unsure if that's a good call for them, because why yet? And we never even touched on this, but if you had a Game Pass and Steam, it kind of comes back to that question of, well, I could get Game Pass, but then I don't own my games. If I get Steam, I own my games, and then I can play them on PC if I have one, or if I ever get one down the line, or a Steam Deck. So, it's all a lot of moving parts and a lot of questions and a lot of companies and a lot of money that I don't envy Phil Spencer.
He's been under fire so much as of late, but again, you're bringing up these valid points of, yeah, like the prospect is great, but there are so many little bits and yeses and nos and things that people gotta take into account if they want these things to come to light. And that's honestly why some of these things never just happen. I mean, we were so dead set. The Switch 2 coming in October, coming in the holiday. That got pushed to 2025, apparently. So, again, you live, just move with the waves in the gaming world. Let it take you wherever we go at the end of the day. But I guess it's my favorite part of the episode now, where we pass it off to you guys, the viewers. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. But I'm going to channel my inner Billy Mays here. But wait, there is more, because we also have a Discord, and this is where we're talking it up about games constantly. The links to all that will be down below. But as for now, fingers crossed, maybe one of the two happen. I think that's the best. I'll take one of the two things here.
Which one of the two? What are the two?
Why'd you have to make me pick? This is like picking my first starter in Pokemon. For the sake of being quick about things, Xbox handheld. I don't need Steam. I don't need Epic Games.
Okay, I mean,
I'm gonna pass it back to you now. I need to know.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, even though I wouldn't go for it, just because I'm too ingrained in my ecosystem, but I think that would be the best one for Xbox, at least for their future. Yeah.
Well, that about does it for this episode of Hot Topic, and we'll see you guys next time. If you enjoyed today's debate or want your weekly dose of gaming news content, consider subscribing to Game Sandwich for content just like this. And we'll see you guys next time.